Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a stack of sources today that, well, they drop us right into a really brutal, far future setting. Specifically, we're looking at the Sabbat Worlds campaign.
Hmm.
Think of it as just this colossal military conflict. We're talking enormous forces, nearly 1 billion Imperial Guard troops, plus countless others,
Mm.
fighting across almost 100 star systems.
Yeah, the scale is just staggering.
It really is. And it's a universe where, according to one of these documents you shared, quote, in the grim, dark future, there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter and the laughter of thirsting gods.
And that quote really sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's fascinating about these sources, I think, is how they give us two perspectives at once. You get that boots on the ground view, the mud and blood reality seen through the eyes of one specific regiment.
Right.
But they also kind of pull back, show the complexity of the high command, and maybe most importantly, the deep, often hidden conflicts simmering beneath the surface of the main war effort.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely not a simple good versus evil story here. There are layers upon layers of agendas, loyalties, all sorts of stuff going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to navigate this incredibly complex picture, just as is presented in these documents. We'll follow some key characters, pivotal events. What important nuggets of insight can we, extract about loyalty under pressure, the dynamics of command, the danger of hidden technology, and just the sheer soul-crushing grind of this kind of warfare. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start with the people actually living that grind every single day, the soldiers. The sources spend a lot of time with a specific regiment called the Tanith First-and-Only, better known as Gaunt's Ghosts.
Ah, yes, the ghosts.
And they're described pretty vividly: drawn, pale, almost colorless hair, wearing dark gray battle dress with beige webbing, and of course their signature
Their
camouflage.
trademark, yeah. And their defining characteristic, according to the sources, is this almost supernatural, tenacious ability to hide in anything. They are masters of stealth, camouflage, tracking.
Yeah. And there's a really unique, specific reason given for why they're so exceptionally good at this, isn't there? Their lost home world, Tanith, was destroyed, which is why they're the first and only.
Right, the tragic backstory.
It had these strange, quote, motile tree growth called nowwood. These forests would literally move, change paths overnight. Can you imagine?
It's wild. And this environment, it basically forced the Tanith people to develop an incredible instinct for direction. It made them naturally skilled at navigation, concealment, pretty much from birth. It's like their whole world trained them for this specific kind of warfare.
That's such a cool detail, how their lost home directly shaped their unique battlefield skill. It makes them feel very real. And we meet some really memorable characters from this regiment, too. There's Colonel Corbeck. He's the first officer. He's described as built like an ox and going to fat, spiral tattoos, shaggy beard. He feels this deep connection to the men, almost like a father figure. But the sources also show his moments of just profound weariness, describing him as weary beyond measure, even tearing up when thinking of lost Tanith.
Yeah, the weight of command and loss. Then you have the younger troopers like Catherine. He's an apprentice engineer from Tanith. We see him in these quieter moments of reflection, like
What?
eating officers' rations with, well, obvious gusto, and thinking about their lost home. He finds this grim kind of strength in having, and this is a quote, nothing left to lose.
That's powerful. And young Milo, the 16-year-old adjutant who has this almost mystical gift for anticipating shellfall. He senses incoming attacks before they happen.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Plays the Tanith pipes, a tune called Waltrap's Wild, and possesses this surprising gift for judgment that seems way beyond his years.
And you can't overlook Sergeant McCall, the scout sergeant. He's described as just utterly attuned to his surroundings, capable of reading, quote, solid truth from ephemerally shifting inconsequence.
Wow.
And his skill is explicitly linked back to mastering those shifting Nelwood forests. It all connects.
It really does. And there are others we get glimpses of. Bragg, the big heavy weapons guy. Larkin, the sniper with his lucky weapon. Varl with a cybernetic shoulder. The sources show their camaraderie too, like gambling together in the cold zones, or Corbeck rallying them with, quote, we're having a party, boys, for Tanith, for us.
But this bond, this shared identity is the ghosts. It exists against a backdrop of truly brutal reality. I mean, the sources describe life in the trenches as just gray slime.
Yeah.
Casualty rates aren't just from enemy fire either. It's gas disease and secondary infection taking a huge toll. And they face these horrific enemies like the Shriven, who use terrifyingly unconventional weapons.
The descriptions are pretty visceral. McCall gets hit by last fire, his flesh is bubbled, men literally rupture and come apart from strange barbed rounds.
Horrific.
And the psychological toll, Korbeck is deeply shaken after facing some kind of beast. It's just this constant grinding horror they live through.
Now, as the ghosts are, fighting for survival down in the trenches, these sources also pull us up to the higher levels of command, and that reveals a whole different world, really. Complex political maneuvering, conflicting military philosophies.
Right, the bigger picture. We hear about figures like War Master Slato, the original supreme commander of this massive crusade, and then later War Master Mekaroth, who takes over leadership.
And then there's Commissar General Oktar. He's a high-ranking leader who was actually Gaunt's mentor figure. Oktar believed war was, and this is a quote, a simple thing, where caution and restraint could win far more for less cost. He sounds, more like a traditional strategist, maybe.
Seems like it.
He personally selected Gaunt, was described as almost a father to him, even guided him to his first command victory on a world called Darendara. There's a history there.
Which contrasts sharply with Lord High Militant General Hector Draver.
Oh, Draver. Yes.
Described as a squat, bullish man, intensely focused on taking every ounce of glory for himself. He's a general who seems to rely heavily on sheer numbers, on just throwing troops into the grinder, accepting acceptable losses as just the cost of doing business.
A meat grinder general.
Pretty much. His voice is even noted as being disturbingly thin, reedy, adds to the unpleasant picture.
And the sources make it absolutely clear there is deep animosity between Draver and Oktar. Oktar refers to him disparagingly, calling him a rat turd Colonel Draver at one point.
Ouch. You even see Draver's petty nature, like carelessly throwing away pots of caffeine that aren't completely empty. It's a small detail, but telling.
It really is. And adding another layer to this command structure are the different regiments and their leaders. You have the Jantine patricians, who proudly call themselves the Emperor's Chosen.
Right. Sounds pretty lofty.
Their leaders include Colonel Flintz, notable for his acid-scarred face, and Major Brocus, who serves as Draver's adjutant. And Brocus harbors this specific grudge against Gaunt's ghosts, claiming they, quote, cheated us of a victory on Fortis.
So there's bad blood already. The Jantines seem obsessed with these abstract concepts like honor and glory, sometimes putting those above actual victory or even basic military discipline.
Yeah, that focus seems to lead to this mindless feuding with the Tanith, which, seems incredibly counterproductive in the middle of a war zone.
Absolutely. It's a key insight, isn't it, how these internal cultural clashes can just undermine the larger effort.
Totally. And we also encounter the Vitrian Dragoons. They're presented as well-drilled and austere unit with a very clinical attitude. They follow this strict code or philosophy called the Baihada, the Vitrian art of war.
The Baihada.
Yeah, described as their codex, the guiding philosophy of their warrior caste. Very disciplined, very by the book, it seems.
And you really see the contrast in philosophies when young trooper Catherine of the Tanith talks to a Vitrian trooper named Zogat. Catherine's talking about the Tanith having nothing left to lose, finding strength in desperation.
Right.
While Zogat focuses on their strict warrior code, it really highlights the different ways soldiers endure and find meaning in this incredibly brutal environment. Different coping mechanisms, maybe?
Could be. Now, weaving together the struggles of the soldiers and the complexities of the high command is this mysterious object that quickly becomes a central driver of the story, a data crystal.
Ah, the crystal. Gaunt receives this in the cold zones of Kracia City on a world called Pyrites. It's given to him by a man whose intelligence network has just been completely destroyed by Draver's spies.
So high stakes from the get-go.
Exactly. The crystal contains vermilion-level data, incredibly sensitive information captured, quote, at the cost of the lives of 2 psychers, which are, individuals with potent, often dangerous psychic abilities in this universe.
Right. Powerful and unstable.
And the man delivering it is desperate. He stresses that Draver must not get his hands on it and calls it priceless.
So just receiving this crystal puts Gaunt in immediate, immense danger. Draver's network attempts to kill him and retrieve the crystal not once, but twice. First, right there on Pyrites.
A close call.
And then later, more ominously, aboard the transport ship, the Absalom.
Ah, yes, the journey on the Absalom. This is described as an ancient transport ship belonging to the Adeptus Mechanicus, the sort of techno-priests and engineers of this setting.
Got it.
It's a behemoth. just a vast vessel carrying multiple regiments, including the Tanith and the Jantine, through warp space. It's a strange vessel, too. We get moments like seeing the Empyrean, which is warp space itself, through this thing called the Glass Bay. Noticing the ship's weird atmosphere, its vast internal structure with areas like the Munitorium and the Strategium.
Feels claustrophobic and huge at the same time. Aboard this ship, Gaunt tries to decipher the crystal's secrets. He uses a decryption ring given to him years ago by someone he calls his Uncle Dirceus.
Which seems like a throwaway detail at first.
Exactly. But it becomes incredibly significant later when we learn Dirceus was linked to the Jantine command structure. Small world, or maybe not so small. Anyway, the ring fails. He can't open the crystal's data.
And the crystal just keeps causing friction, doesn't it? It sparks conflicts aboard the ship itself. Gaunt creates a diversion by confronting the ship's commander, Lord Captain Grasticus, in the Strategium.
A calculated risk.
Meanwhile, the Tanith, using young Milo's surprising technical knack that kit, again, raid the Munitorium databanks to get a data tile they hope can help them understand the crystal.
Resourceful. But the most critical conflict aboard the Absalom is definitely the Jantine attack on the Infirmary Annex. This is where Ron, one of Gaunt's key officers, is being held after being gravely wounded earlier.
Yeah, that felt really sinister.
It was. The attack reveals that Colonel Flens and Major Brocus of the Jantine are present, along with that mysterious robed figure who turns out to be Inquisitor Haldane, an agent of the powerful, secretive Imperial Inquisition.
So an Inquisitor is involved now.
Yep. Gaunt and his men barely managed to escape with the severely injured Ron.
This clandestine attack, carried out by one supposedly allied regiment against another. It just highlights how deep these hidden agendas and interregimental feuds run, and it all seems tied back to that mysterious crystal. It's a powerful illustration of how internal conflict can be just as dangerous, maybe more so, than the external enemy.
Absolutely. Which ultimately leads them, guided by whatever fragments of data Gaunt has gleaned from the crystal, to their next major destination, Menazoid Epsilon. This is described as a remote, dark death world, designated as a key target in the Sabbat Worlds campaign.
And the sources note a specific, interesting decision made by Lord General Greyvear regarding Epsilon. Instead of ordering an orbital bombardment, which would likely destroy the world's defenses from above, he orders a ground assault. Well, the sources suggest Rivera wants to capture something valuable the enemy holds there, but they also reveal his petty motivation. He knows the rebellious Gaunt requested this particular theater of war, and he sees committing 50,000 infantry as a, quote, down payment on his apotheosis.
His path to glory.
Exactly. A way to gain glory and probably potentially get Gaunt killed in the process. He even uses Colonel Flens to basically tail Gaunt as his eyes and ears on the ground.
Playing dangerous games.
Huh.
Epsilon itself is described in really chilling detail. It's a shrine world, apparently. But instead of some holy site, it contains an ancient necropolis, a, quote, city long dead that had been raised by inhuman hands.
That's creepy.
It's built of strange stone, blue granite, black granite, and it just radiates evil, darkness, corruption.
Yeah.
The physical effects on the soldiers are immediate and disturbing tangible. A pleasant honeysuckle scent turns into this awful stench, causing nausea, air sting, nosebleeds. These are presented as clear physical signs of chaos presence and corruption. Not just a feeling, but something tangible.
And it's in this horrifying, corrupted environment that Gaunt makes a crucial, really defiant decision. Guided by just a snippet of data from the crystal spoke of a dome, he diverges completely from Gervais' official order of battle.
He goes off script, big time.
Totally. He leads his men on a different path towards a specific target he calls Target Primaris, despite fierce protests from his own officers, and knowing full well Lord General Gervais will be furious. He simply tells McCall, I have my own orders. It's a huge gamble, risking charges of insubordination on a massive scale, all based on cryptic information.
The dangers on Epsilon are immense. The enemy, the Shriven, use powerful artillery they call Leviathans, and those bizarre, dangerous barb-like bullets we heard about earlier, the ones that cause men to rupture and come apart.
Just nasty stuff.
And the ancient necropolis isn't passive either. It has these defensive towers that activate a powerful defense grid, emitting this fetid white energy.
There's a desperate fight against these towers, right?
Yeah.
Colonel Corbeck, injured but still leading.
Still in the thick of it.
He recognizes the immediate existential threat they pose and orders his men to destroy them using any and all available munitions to, quote, break the chains of the grid. This quick, decisive action prevents the total annihilation of the ghosts, although the sources do note heavy losses. Hasker's platoon gets caught directly in the energy fence.
Tragic. But Korbeck's leadership, even wounded, saves countless lives there. After neutralizing that surface threat, they explore underground into the necropolis's underworld. The atmosphere is intensely eerie. The darkness seems to actively eat up the light from their lamp packs, described as some kind of energy drain affecting even the soldiers themselves.
Wow, and then they find it. They discover the Edicule, described as a shrine, a resting place. It's a great vault made of opalescent stone with an unearthly green glow, and within it stands, quote, a machine, a vast device, a standard template constructor, intact.
An intact STC. The sources really stress the immense significance of this. In this universe, the secrets of originating technology were largely lost during a period called the Dark Ages of Technology.
Right, the Imperium just copies old stuff, mostly.
Pretty much. They only know how to make most things by recovering damaged fragments of STC systems and painstakingly learning from them. An intact STC is virtually unheard of, described as priceless, potentially the greatest technological advance of the century. It's the ultimate lost knowledge, the holy grail of technology.
But this isn't just any STC, is it?
Yeah.
The sources reveal it's a standard template weapons maker specifically capable of creating Iron Men, a term used to refer to thinking machines of the Iron Age, which immediately flags it as potentially incredibly dangerous, linked to a forbidden era of history when humanity relied too heavily on artificial intelligence with disastrous results.
Yeah, AI is a huge taboo. And this is where the complex hidden agendas we discussed earlier truly converge. The sources reveal the true identity and agenda of Imperial tactician Wayland, who's been subtly observing Dravier and Gaunt all this time.
Right, the observer.
He is actually Farid, a spy, a watcher, originally sent by War Master Makarov himself, but who seems to have developed his own agenda, perhaps tied directly to this discovery.
Okay, so everyone wants a piece of this. The dramatic confrontation happens right there in the Edicule. Farid, seeing the STC, calls it the prize, something that will give immense advantage, maybe even over Makarov. He argues with Gaunt, calling the STC the greatest killing engine, something that can take a world without needing their blood, without paying the heavy cost in lives they just paid.
But Gaunt sees it completely differently. He counters fiercely, calling the STC heresy, explicitly linking it back to those dangerous thinking machines of the Iron Age. He argues that mankind must never again trust its fate to creations. He states it powerfully. I trust flesh and blood, not iron.
Wow. His loyalty is to his men, to humanity's resilience, not to some dangerous, forbidden technology, no matter how powerful.
Exactly. Gaunt's decision is final and defiant. It feels like a culmination of his principles, and maybe that crystal's implied warning. He declares he is there, quote, to destroy this thing so that no one can use it.
He orders his men to plant demolition charges, despite Farid's desperate protests and arguments about the potential power they're about to just obliterate.
And this act of defiance, this decision to destroy the STC, triggers an immediate chilling consequence elsewhere. Remember Inquisitor Haldane?
The guy from the Absalom Infirmary.
That's the one. He was somehow watching remotely, realizes Gaunt's plan. He's furious, realizing he underestimated this Gaunt, this blunt fool, and uses his powerful psychic abilities to influence someone he considers his pawn to intervene.
And that pawn is revealed to be Ron, who is still recovering from his severe injuries. The sources describe him shuddering, blood seeping from his nose, clearly feeling Haldane's horrific psychic influence compelling him, and he raises his weapon.
The tension just erupts. It's a firefight right there in the Edicule. Farid and his bodyguards turn their weapons on the ghosts. But then, in this pivotal, chaotic moment, Ron, whether he breaks free of Haldane's control or acts on his own instincts, it's maybe unclear, fires his barb lance round.
The nasty one.
Yeah. It hits Farid, and his head is, quote, explosively evaporated.
Jeez.
The ghosts then quickly fight off Farid's remaining bodyguards. It's a sudden, violent end to Farid's independent scheme.
Okay, so while this absolute chaos is unfolding underground in the Edicule, the sources reveal several separate but deeply interconnected conflicts happening concurrently above and around it.
Right, it's not just happening in one place. Up above ground, the Jantine patricians launched the attack on the Tanith rear guard that Gaunt had anticipated and warned his men about.
The honor attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Major Brocus leads this charge, driven by intense regimental pride and the old honor thing, yelling their regimental battle cry, Normanitas Excelsius. They clash with the Vitrian dragoons who were guarding the area, resulting in this bloody battle between supposedly allied forces.
This fight sounds vicious and personal. The sources explicitly state that Brockus personally killed 44 Vitrian dragoons before he is finally killed himself by Vitrian Sergeant Zogat.
44.
Wow. This confirms for both the Tanith and the Vitrians that Gaunt's seemingly paranoid warning about the Jantine attacking them was horrifyingly true. It just further illustrates how devastating these internal feuds are, wasting lives over pride.
And we saw the lead up to this, didn't we? Back aboard the Absalon with Ron's initial severe wounding. Corbeck and others had to rescue the gravely wounded Ron from the infirmary, revealing the depth of the Jantine's ruthlessness. Flynn and Brockus were present then too, suggesting they were either involved in or sanctioning whatever was happening to Ron under Haldane's influence. It all tracks.
And down in the tunnels of the necropolis, Gaunt faces a very personal reckoning. While searching for two injured men left behind, Dorden and Domor, he's ambushed by Jantine soldiers. An ambush that explicitly reveals Colonel Flens is involved, leading to this brutal hand-to-hand fight in the darkness.
And here, a key connection from Gaunt's past comes crashing right into the present. Yeah. In the struggle, Flens yells, quote, "For my father,"
Oh, wow.
revealing that he is the son of Aldo Dosius, the man Gaunt executed for cowardice on a world called Ked years earlier. Remember Uncle Dersius, whose ring Gaunt had?
Yes, so that's the connection.
That's the connection. Gaunt realizes with grim certainty, quote, how this could end no other way, and kills Flens using his Tanith war knife.
That is a huge moment. It directly links Gaunt's actions from his earliest career of battlefield punishment to the deep, seemingly irrational hatred the Jantine patricians have held for him and his regiment all these years. It explains the intensity of their feud, how incredibly personal it is. Gaunt's past literally caught up with him, shows how long these grudges can fester and influence events on a grand scale.
Absolutely. The sources also include a crucial flashback or memory that sheds light on Gaunt's past and maybe even hints at his future. It's a return to Gaunt's first command victory on Derendara, meeting Commissar General Akhtar again.
Back to the mentor figure.
Right. The scene is described with sensory details, the celebration, sweet fruit, a really stark contrast to the grim darkness they're currently wading through. Akhtar praises Gaunt, saying, quote, "You did well today, Ibram. Your father would be proud."
A moment of warmth. But this memory on Derendara also includes a really mysterious encounter, doesn't it? Akhtar sends Gaunt to see a prisoner, a psyker witch, who will only speak to him.
Yeah, very strange. She's described with a strange appearance and possesses this uncanny knowledge, immediately knowing his name, saying, quote, "The warp knows you, Ibram."
Farpy.
She speaks in these fragmented prophetic warnings. She mentions, quote, 7 stones of power, and says he needs to find your ghosts first.
Find his ghosts, like his regiment.
Seems likely, doesn't it? Later, she gives him this direct, urgent command about something she calls the Vermilion Thing, telling him, quote, "Destroy it. The Vermilion Thing. Destroy it. It makes iron without souls."
Iron without souls, that's the STC, the Iron Man.
Exactly. And she delivers a truly chilling warning about the future consequences. All will be wrong hands. No one has the right to use it. And even more ominously, worlds will die. A war master will die.
And listening back now, that prophecy is incredibly relevant to everything that just unfolded. The STC, that incredible, dangerous machine, it is the Vermilion Thing that makes iron without souls. And her warnings about wrong hands, dying worlds, and a dying war master, they just hang heavy over the future of the entire Sabbat Worlds campaign.
Absolutely. It ties the immediate personal conflicts we've seen directly to the vast cosmic scale of this setting and hints at larger forces and events yet to come. It's quite powerful.
Okay, let's try and bring it all together then. What a journey we've been on. Just through these sources, we've traveled from the gray slime of the trenches with Gaunt's ghosts, through the petty rivalries and grand strategies of high command, witnessed personal histories collide in brutal combat, and discovered and then destroyed forbidden, potentially universe-shaking technology. This deep dive, pulled from these documents, it really showed us that even in a universe defined by endless external war, the most dangerous conflicts aren't always just between the declared enemies on the battlefield.
Exactly. We've seen layers upon layers of conflicting loyalties. Gaunt's unwavering loyalty to his men and his principles clashing with military hierarchy, Farid's divided allegiance, the Jantine's pride overriding strategic sense, Haldane's manipulative agenda. It's everywhere. We've seen agendas hidden beneath the surface from figures like Dravir, Flens, Farid, and Haldane, all manipulating events for their own ends. The immense value placed on lost knowledge, embodied by that STC, is clearly a powerful motivator for many factions. And we see the incredibly high cost of both following orders and defying them, as Gaunt had to do multiple times. Characters like Gaunt are constantly navigating this incredibly complex web of military necessity, personal history, dangerous secrets, and frankly, questionable allies.
So, taking all this in, what does this story mean for you, the listener, when you're trying to understand complex situations, when you're faced with maybe information overload in your own world? I think this deep dive highlights the critical importance of looking beyond the surface narrative. It's about actively searching for the underlying motivations, the hidden connections between seemingly unrelated events, and recognizing that not everyone involved is operating from the same set of goals or the same playbook. Even seemingly simple conflicts can be rooted in incredibly deep personal histories or vast, dark ambitions that might not be immediately obvious. It's a reminder, I suppose, to always look for the many, many layers beneath the headline.
Well said. And speaking of those layers and those chilling prophecies,
Hmm.
the Psyker Witch warned Gaunt about the STC, the Vermilion thing, saying, quote, "All will be wrong hands. No one has the right to use it." She also spoke of him needing to find your ghosts first, and of 7 stones.
Right.
Now, Gaunt has certainly found his ghosts in his loyal regiment, and he found and destroyed the Vermilion thing, the STC. But what about the mysterious 7 stones she mentioned? We never got an answer to that.
Yeah.
And given the fate of the STC in this story, its destruction, what is her terrifying warning, quote, "Worlds will die, a war master will die."
Okay.
Truly portend for the future of the Sabbat Worlds campaign, and the leaders, like War Master Makaroth, who command it. That destruction might not have averted disaster. It's definitely something to consider as the war grinds on.